And it's wonderful to see so many of us here to embrace and experience coaching as part of our program called the Sprint. It's a pro bono coaching program initiative. And I would say it's the brainchild of Sunita, who you see on the screen over here. So Sunita and I collaborated and basically thought if it is an offering that we can make to all these amazing women that we have in our community and help them experience coaching and find how it can add value to their own journeys. So today, we are actually going to be kicking off the cohort 3. We started this experiment, I think, end of last year, where we started off cohort 1. And we have had 2 rounds of the coaching program already run. And now let's talk about the third in the series that we have. So I think what we are going to do is I'll walk you through very quickly through the structure that we have of the program. And then we have a couple of people who are either coaches or have been coachees in our earlier cohorts who will share their experiences with you. You can also use them to sort of answer any questions that you may have about the program. How will things run? Who will you get paired with, or anything else that you may have in mind? So feel free to ask away, and we'll try to make sure we address as many of your questions as possible. Okay. So we'll talk about the sprint first. So any movie typically has one protagonist, but our sprint has 2 key protagonists. There's the coach, and then there's you, right? Everyone else that you see in this community today, be it from Lean in Bangalore, be it from Navgati or the Coaches Collective, all of us are your cheerleaders. We are here to make sure that you're able to experience coaching, and we'll facilitate the process. But the work comes down to the 2 stars of the show who make sure that magic happens, right? So what is it that we're trying to do with this entire program of the sprint, right? So what we are trying to do is offer one-on-one personalized coaching to anyone who signs up for the program. The person who is the coachee, which is you get to choose what are the goals that you want to achieve out of this entire program. It could be a personal goal, it could be a professional goal, and it is entirely possible that in the middle of the program, you think that some other goal has become more important, and so on. But ideally start with something very clear and structured in your mind, or what is it that your current needs are, and use this entire program to facilitate that particular need that you have. So the way it is structured is that there would be 4 sessions that we offer with the coach to you. These 4 sessions are typically an hour long each. They are spread over 3 months, and you can move them around and schedule them based on both of your availability. So when is the coach available? When are you available? What timings work for you? What days work for you? You can discuss that together and then figure out when do you want to have these sessions. The first session that we do in this entire program is called the chemistry session, which is more like an icebreaker session where you get to know the coach gets to know you. You talk about your goals, and you talk about and try to figure out if you are able to get comfortable with this person, right? Is this person someone you'll open up to and talk about whatever it is that is weighing on your mind? So that is what the chemistry session is supposed to do. And then you can use the other 3 sessions to really get to and make progress on the goal that you establish, right? So as part of this, there are certain expectations that we have from both the coach and the coachee. One is we want to make sure that everyone who signs up for the program is committed to the whole thing, right? So we want to make sure you show up for yourself and the goals you're establishing for yourself. So it is not a goal for me, it is not a goal for Sunita or for the coach to achieve. Since the change has to come in your life, you have to be committed to making that change. The second thing we ask of you is to communicate proactively and openly, right? So there are times when life happens, right? When suddenly things go awry, or there's just too much on your plate and you can't really do something at that point in time. That is completely okay, right? But make sure you're able to communicate this to the coach that I'll not be able to make this session because I have something on my plate. Can we reschedule this? Make sure you communicate ahead. Make sure you communicate in advance. It's basically a way of paying respect to the person who's giving you their time and their bandwidth, right, to make sure that you make progress. So we ask for mutual respect, we ask for communication, and we ask you to make sure that you show up for yourself. That's the only 3 things we ask of you. At the end of this program, what we are hoping you'll achieve is greater clarity, right, of how you function, what are the things that drive you, and then you would have made some progress towards the goal. For some people, we've seen they achieve their goal in whatever duration of the coaching is. For some people, it's only a point of starting. And the goal, being a longer term goal, will probably take longer to come through, but they've started on their journey and made progress towards it, right? So it could be either of those 2 cases. And you know, at the end of the program, what is it that you need to do to take things to the next level from there? So that is what we are hoping the outcome of the whole program would be. So at the end of today's session, after we talk about all of these logistics, all of the nuances of coaching and how things would get structured, what we are going to do is we are going to summarize the whole thing and send you something which is called the coaching contract. Okay, it basically summarizes what is your role as a coachee. It summarizes the role of the coach that is going to be there. And you look at it, you make sure you read it, and then you sort of sign it virtually and send over that contract to us. It is basically our way of making sure that you are committed to the whole process. So we want to make sure you commit to coaching, and then we pair you up with a coach who will help you meet your goals. At the end of this whole program, what we want from you is basically an effort to pay it forward. This is a free program that we don't really charge anyone for. We have got coaches who are offering their time pro bono to all of you. So all that we ask of you is either you could share a testimonial at the end of the journey with us to recount and see what is it that you gained out of the whole program. Or if you're enthusiastic and you think you can do more than just share a testimonial, please feel free to offer a skill or something that you think would be valuable to the community. So all that we ask of you is to pay forward this initiative and this good deed that you will experience over the next few months and help someone else experience it too. So I think that's the broad overview of the whole thing. Today we have a couple of people we will be talking to. So may I ask all of the panelists who are already here to please switch on their cameras.
I think if everyone else, Shweta, can do 2 things, which is one, go to the video settings next to your start or stop video button. You'll see a little up arrow. If you click on that, you'll see an option which says video settings. Scroll down a little on the video settings and you'll see an option that says hide non-video participants. Yeah. So if you click on that, then you'll be able to see only the people who have their videos on. So it just makes for a cleaner, easier interface. Yeah. And then if I could ask everyone except the panel to turn their cameras off for just a little bit, we'll have you come back on again.
So Sunita is going to be moderating the panel discussion that we have. Mansi will make sure she keeps an eye out on the chat and we'll make sure we take all the audience questions that come through. I think Shilpa is unwell, so she's not able to join us today, but we have all the 4 others here. So Sunita, over to you from here.
Thank you so much. So maybe let's just start with a quick introduction to me. My name is Sunita Krishnamurthy. I run this organization called Navkriti. We are a leadership development firm and we've been in this business for the last 23 years. We've been training people to be coaches for about 10 years now, and that's why you see us here today. The Coaches Collective is a group of coaches. Everyone whom you encounter are people who've gone through our coach training program and who are either International Coaching Federation certified coaches or in process and have done a significant amount of coaching already. Yeah? And the reason I'm very excited about this and very grateful to Shweta is that I think this is a beautiful example of a win-win-win solution. Yeah? So we have the women of Linen who get the opportunity to be coached, to experience what coaching is for free. We have the coaches of the Coaches Collective who get the hours they need. And a lot of them are in this because they genuinely want to give back. So they have that need being met. Yeah. So everyone over here is, Navgati is generally winning because we are happy that everyone else is winning. So it's a lovely example of how it's possible to make something work for different groups of people. And I'm really excited that we've done the first 2 sprints and we're now on our 3rd. Yeah. So the structure of today is that I'm not going to be talking to you all about what coaching is. I'm going to ask this group of panelists, these 4 lovely people you see on screen, to talk about their experience from both sides, from this being the side of a coach and being the side of a client. But before we get started, maybe we'll do a quick round of introductions. And everyone else, please do keep yourself muted because you're also recording this for later. Yeah. So just in alphabetical order, Deepika, a quick introduction to yourself.
Hi, I'm Deepika and I'm thrilled to be here and participate. Thank you, Sunita. I did my coach training with Navgati and yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying being a coach.
But maybe say a little about yourself, like what do you do?
I'm a development specialist. I also undertake some communications projects. I'm a professional MC. Yeah, these are the bunch of things that I do.
Thank you, Deepika. Divya?
Yeah, hi, Sunita.
Hi.
Thank you for having me lean in. So yeah, I'm an analytics professional. A little bit about me is I am a restarter. I had a break in between of 7 years, close to 7 years, I guess. In between motherhood and everything happened, and I was quite out of touch. And I also transitioned from a very different background to analytics and being an AI developer. So yeah, last 2.5 years had been full of ups and downs, full of questions like whether I'll make it or not. And this program could not be at a better time. I was already making a transition from one job to another. And this definitely helped me a lot. And I guess we'll discuss it further once you have more questions.
I look forward to hearing about that story. Thank you, Divya. Rachel?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm an HR professional, been in the HR space for close to around 9.5 years now. So grateful to this community for, the opportunity to have been coached. We talk so much about coaching in HR, but experiencing the process itself is I would say, a life transformation. If that's what you make it. Been in Bangalore for the last 10 years, currently living here, have a 20-month-old son running around the house somewhere, and I'm stuck in a corner now, trying to get that space to have this conversation with all of you. Basically from Goa, but been in Bangalore for the last, and I see everyone's smile on their faces probably when I say the word Goa, but yeah, life makes you take decisions if you want to get where you want to be. So yeah, looking forward to answering any questions that you may all have.
Bangalore is the second nicest place in India to live after Goa. So you made a good choice. Srinath.
Hi, Sunita. Hi, Shweta. Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here too. And I'm glad to be the minority in terms of gender balance for a change. We need this. We deserve this. I work for the Scout movement. Those of you who heard Scouts and Guides, I mean, it's big in India. It's also a global movement. That's something that not everybody knows. And I have worked in several roles in the global headquarters earlier in Switzerland. Then I've been working in Kenya for some years, in Malaysia. Right now, I'm the regional director for the former Soviet countries. My home should have been Ukraine, but since the end of February, I have been a nomad, escaped war and living in different places and working and visiting borders and countries that I'm responsible for, which is all the Stan countries and Russia, Moldova, and all of those countries near Ukraine. Very happy to be trained by Navgati and Sunita and to be given this opportunity to be here as a coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinath. I want to say I really appreciate all 4 of you all for making this time to be here. It's going beyond the call of duty. So I really appreciate you giving up 1.5 hours, so 1 hour of your time on a Saturday. Yeah. So let's just jump straight into it. Then I'm going to start with Deepika and Srinath. If you were to explain what coaching is to the group of people who are on this call, using a metaphor. Yeah. What metaphor would you use and why would you use that? Deepika, you want to go first?
Yes, I could. I think describing it as a treasure hunt is one way to go. As you discover more about yourself, you get a clue and you get a deeper insight into yourself, and then you move forward, and as things progress you get a still deeper insight, and that improves the quality of your life. So I look at it as a perpetual treasure hunt.
Yes. So coaching is like a treasure hunt within yourself.
Yes, within yourself.
Support of a coach, you can understand patterns, you can learn things about yourself that really add value and bring richness to your life. Yeah? Lovely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Srinath?
Yeah, we use a lot of metaphors in coaching, those of you who've been around enough. What I'd like to use today is the idea of a Google Navigator. The Navigator tool itself is like a coach. So the tool doesn't decide where the person wants to go to, but it guides them along the way and shows them some surprising things that could really be picked up and add to the experience of where the person wants to go. And sometimes while you're going and if the navigation is going well, you might choose to change course or do something bigger or stronger. On the way, you might take a detour and find your purpose, which you had not thought of earlier. So it's being that one step behind the coachee and navigating, supporting, but being there, for the coachee. Thank you.
Lovely. So the role that I hear you describe a coach playing is not of someone who's directing the journey, the role of a coach is not to tell clients that this is the goal that you want to get to. But if you have decided, so Divya was talking about making a transition and coming back to work. If she has a certain goal in mind, then the coach's role is the coaching process helps the client navigate towards that goal. Yeah. And I'm opening up this question for all four of y'all. So people on the group might be curious, especially people who haven't encountered coaching before, might be curious about if a coach really doesn't tell you what to do, then what's the value that a coach adds? I mean, can't we all just sit down and think about this for ourselves and figure out our own solutions? But what is the value in having someone to talk to? Go ahead, Deepika.
Is this for the audience or for one of us?
For all four of you. So you can start.
So I think it's like looking in a mirror of sorts, because the coach reflects back to you, and sometimes the coach doesn't have to say anything, but just you hear yourself out aloud, and that's a reflection in itself. So when that happens, a lot of times we think things over, and you overthink it so much, and it gets complicated by so many other elements, that when you're just sitting in this safe space talking out loud to a person, I think that sort of reflection is the value addition that a coach can provide first and foremost.
Yeah, and it's a very powerful value addition, because those kind of silent spaces, accepting spaces are so rare. Right? And most of you listening in would have experienced that if you start talking to a friend or a colleague about a problem, what's the first thing you're likely to encounter? Someone saying, hey, I think you should be doing this. Yeah. So that kind of space where the person listens to you and gives you the time to listen to yourself out loud. Yeah. Thank you, Deepika. Divya, are you going to add?
Yeah, similar to what Deepika said, but like it's a sounding board, and sometimes we also do this with some friend who could be a buddy to you, and you could share. An added advantage of having a coach who's a neutral person, like they don't have like any particular agenda or anything, so that helps in not restricting yourself of what to share and what not to share. So that is because sometimes when you're telling something to a friend or a relative who you consider very highly of, you would still make those little adjustments of what information I'm going to give out and what information I'll probably hold back. And that is something that you could be more open, and that really helps to unlock that potential of and what really helped me was like, just to answer certain things, like why did I take a particular action? Because if we are also self-reflecting, sometimes since we are already thinking a lot of things, we might not ask those questions ourselves. So a coach is able to come in at that point and intercept maybe, and then it gives us clarity.
Lovely. So I'm hearing you make two powerful points, Divya, which is one, that talking to a coach is different because there's a certain degree of non-judgment. So you can say whatever on your mind without worrying about how what you're saying is going to affect the coach, because they have no direct connection to your life. And the second is the fact that a coach will invite you to look in places and ask yourself questions that you may not have thought to ask yourself earlier. Sometimes when you're stuck in a situation, there are questions that perhaps unconsciously we're not asking ourselves because we're afraid of the answers, or we don't want to confront it. So coach will very gently invite you to look at those aspects.
Right.
Thank you, Divya. Srinath, you
Yeah.
raised your hand?
Yes, I wanted to say that, the presence of a person who's given that space, safe space and time and full attention when a person is reflecting on a journey, on a difficult moment, on a stuck position in life, adds so much value to that person. Even if you don't guide the person, the person feels your commitment to that person's journey. So it's a very, very intimate moment, one where a lot of trust is placed in the coach's hands, and that presence and making sure that we are reinforcing their confidence, because coach telling and asking people to do things, somewhere points out that maybe what you're doing is not right. Whereas building on what the person is thinking and aspiring to do and learning yet from some of the awareness makes the person's self-belief grow stronger and feel fully seen and heard.
Beautiful. That a coach and all the coaches that you will encounter will come in with a firm belief in your capability as a client to think for yourself. So as Divya was saying, maybe you hadn't thought of asking yourself those questions earlier. Maybe you didn't have the space to say whatever you wanted to out loud. But a coach really truly believes that you as a client are capable of bringing about the change that you want, capable of thinking for yourself. And that level of belief in another human being is beautiful to see. Thank you, Srinath. Yes, Deepika.
Yeah, specifically with reference to the question of, a difference between a friend and a coach, I think the frame of reference. So when you go to a friend, sometimes you are, when you vent, you may be asking for advice, you may be venting, hoping that that person will also vent back with you. Like the expectations could be varied. When you're doing it with a friend, but when you're coming to a coach, there is an there is a very clear agenda that this is a space for growth. It's not just a space for venting, while it is a safe space and all of that, but it's also a very clear, I'm going here with a very exploratory purpose. So it's very growth oriented, I feel.
Absolutely. And that's the dual focus of coaching. So to create enough safety, enough trust for a client, for a coachee to be able to introspect. But at the same time, as Deepika is saying, it is not a venting session. It is a goal-oriented session. At the end of the session, your coach will be asking you what you're going to do, what experiments you're going to take with the awareness that you have had. Thank you, Deepika. Rachel, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Just a couple of words, probably. Everyone talking took me back to the coaching sessions that I had, and was such, just took me back to those beautiful days. Few words that I probably describe the coaching process. One was actively listening. The coach was actively listening to me. Non-judgmental. I think you said that, Sunita. So I think non-judgmental. Someone, and the last is someone who's in your corner, right? Someone who's helping you grow. So I think just keep that in mind when it comes to coaching. Actively listen to the coach as well. The questions that the coach is going to ask, they're so introspective. You would never believe that these things would either help you or would make sense to you or would be important to you. So I think yeah, that's how I would describe the coach. And of course, a lot of people would say, why are you selling personal stuff to a coach? Someone who's so you don't even know. Why don't you use your family instead? But I think, like someone mentioned, I think it was Divya who mentioned, family sometimes tend to be a little biased, but a person who is someone completely neutral helps you throughout the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with talking to friends and family is that you're very likely to be at the receiving end of the do one thing phenomena. Which is you state a problem and someone say, do one thing, just go talk to that flow. Why can't you just go talk to the manager?
Yeah.
And as Srinath was saying, that is often discounting the capability. Like, when someone gives me advice, I often feel the urge to say, you think I can't think of that on my own or what? Yeah. So a coach will never talk down to you. Yeah? So continuing that conversation, Deepika and Srinath, what are some things you will not do as a coach? And Rachel and Divya, maybe you could also think about what are some things you saw your coach consciously not doing? Yeah. Yes, Deepika.
I mean, one thing for sure is not telling,
Mm-hmm.
and not judging and bringing personal bias. And I find this to be wonderfully liberating for myself. Forget my client. I find this to be wonderfully liberating for myself to be able to sit there and listen to somebody and not at all judge and bring my personal opinion, and to reduce personal opinion in the first place. So yeah, these are a couple of things I think top of mind that I absolutely would not do.
So to follow through on the first one a little bit more, I'm sure there would be times when, as a coach, you're tempted to tell the client, it seems like, Divya, here's one thing you should be doing, and here's one thing you must be considering at this point in time. Why do you say you won't do that? What do you see as being the damaging potential of it?
So my first instinct when I feel that somebody is insisting that I tell them, or is reluctant to think for themselves, is just that they are simply reluctant to think about something or accept something. So, which is why I won't tell, because then it does not give them the opportunity. I'm still robbing them of the opportunity to stumble on that thought themselves, whatever it is. And not that I would know what that thought is. I may have an intuitive hunch, but only they really know. Right. So that is one. I don't want to rob them of that. And I think I mean, that's primarily it. I usually feel that they're reluctant to accept. So I don't want to tell. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Srinath?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I take into a session that I wouldn't accept myself doing. One is to agree with the discounting that the coachee does. I'd like to challenge them and ask them, where is that coming from? And to get into words.
That's very interesting. Give us an example of how a client might be discounting themselves.
So in one example, one of my clients was going back to work in a very similar situation like Divya had earlier explained, after maternity. And she was thinking that at this point, I don't have negotiation grounds because, I have been not working for the last 4 months. I'm not on top of my projects. I don't know. So I can't really go there and set conditions that I need flexibility because I have a 4-month-old child. And I try to challenge that and say that, there is set conditions to support maternity, and that doesn't discount any of your professional skills. So I mean, I didn't say it that way, but I asked questions around that. So what about, is there a policy for maternity? And if you were taking back somebody, how would you like to treat them? And that made a different insight to the person to give courage to go and claim what was truly hers.
Lovely. So if you see assumptions that a client is making about herself that are not necessarily rooted in reality, and all of us are walking bags of assumptions. I can't say no to an opportunity at work. Yeah? I must keep everyone happy. So I'm hearing you say, Srinath, that one thing you will do is invite a client. You will not let that go unchallenged. Yeah? Is there anything else you were going to add? Say you will not do in a coaching conversation?
Yeah, I think what I'd encountered also in recent coaching conversations is an invitation from the coaches, when the trust has become very strong, to put you in a citadel and ask you, saying, Srinath, I've seen you on LinkedIn, your profession has moved, all of these things, and I'm going to face somebody like that. What would you do if you were in that position? And how should I, so, sometimes it is drawing you into helping the person in a way that coaching doesn't usually recommend, so I can't say no straight away, because that would be like rejecting. That I would come back. I said, we'll do it in this session, we'll bring it up. Then I'd say, let's bring out your strengths and then look at it. So when the person brings the strengths, then comment on those. And when the person thinks on weaknesses, you can comment on those, saying that, I think that this one has come out, and those experiences that you mentioned. So reinforcing again. And towards the end, when I asked the person, how did it feel that I didn't give you my expert, judgment, or she didn't say judgment, your confirmation or validation, but instead did this, the person said, it was amazing. I didn't even feel that you didn't do that. I thought that you were really actually pointing out and showing all my strengths. So it was a risk, but I pulled it off.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very important point for everyone who's listening, that when a coach is not giving you solutions, it's not because they don't want to be helpful, but because they genuinely believe that you are the best position, you're the best person to make decisions, to think through things for yourself. So it's really coming from a place of great trust in your own capacity, in your own strengths, as Srinath was just mentioning.
So I want to just mention one more line that I think really made a difference. So the person said, you've known me for so many weeks, so you know me very well. I said, is there anybody who knows you for your X number of years? Said, my mother, my brother. What about yourself? Yes, that was really a moment.
Lovely. Thank you. Divya, Rachel, was there anything you were surprised by that you thought your coach would do and then you realized they don't do?
I probably would answer it a little differently. So, since like many of us are like first time coaches, so we're also getting into that zone, like, of being coached, and there's no right there's no right way to start with it, right? So with us, like when you get into the groove and you sort of start expecting certain things, and you have and when you are going into a session with something in mind, at times it could happen, at least it happened with me, like you might want to just talk to them and like, for the lack of a better word, just ask them, did I do right or wrong? Just tell me, did I do right or wrong? Put me out of this misery. That is something the coach wouldn't take the bait on, because that's not what coaching is about. There's no one line answer, or there's no instant answers to it. But so in a scenario wherein, like, I had a very sort of a difficult kind of situation at a personal level, and I wanted to discuss that with my coach Radhika. And then she really and I knew that I'm not going to get any answer, but the thought was very tempting. I did discuss it with her, and how she really maneuvered that like that conversation into really questioning me, or not exactly challenge me, but really opening me up to myself, that why was I thinking in that way. That was very liberating, and this is something that a coach wouldn't do. Like, that's one thing I've witnessed.
Lovely, thank you. And I've had that experience over and over again, Divya's, in terms of being a client, that I find that going to a coach or going to a therapist, whatever problem I go with, the underlying layer is always something about me, and that getting insight about myself helps not just in that situation, but in a broader range as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it ends up addressing some more things that you would do, or some more actions that you would have taken if you understand that underlying.
Thank you.
Just on the expectations, I think that every coach would set with their coachee in the beginning was, I am not going to give you the answers. So that's something that your coach will never do. And that's something that although you are tempted to seek out of your conversations, you're tempted to, like Divya said, was this right? Is there a better way? did I pick the right way? Did I do the right thing? But they'll never do that.
Coming from a firm belief that your life is too complex for you meet one person, like Srinath was saying, meet one person over 3 months and put them on a pedestal, that you are really the best judge of where you are. Lovely. Thank you. Deepika and Srinath, what are some common myths about coaching that you've come across that might be good to discuss with this group that people new to coaching might believe? And Divya and Rachel, were there some assumptions that you came in with about who would be a good coach, what would be a good coaching session that got exploded, that was a myth? Here's Deepika.
I think one of the biggest myths I have come across is very similar to that which a lot of people have about therapy, which is that you have a problem, or in the corporate space, if coaching has been recommended to you, then you're on some sort of a performance, on some sort of a PDP, being given feedback. So there are some of these things that continue to be there. But very interestingly, in the individuals coaching space, like where people reach out on their own, right, without the corporate sponsor, over there seems to be not this myth, a better understanding of coaching as just a tool of growth. But yeah, this is the one that I've come across most often.
Yeah, it's the hangover of the remedial coaching institute in India, right? If you're going for coaching or therapy, there must be something wrong with you. I will address the difference between coaching and therapy, Bhavna, just a bit. Srinath, especially as being the minority in this group, what would you like to say about myths about coaching?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've heard, especially in this, is that I was expecting my coach to be a woman, and but they didn't say to me in the first session. They said after the sessions that, I'm glad that I didn't say no. I was recommended to try, but I really felt fully in a trustful space, because what you were saying earlier, that people put you on a pedestal, because here you get really close to a person's inner self, the thinking, vulnerabilities, and that's why the call, like Divya was saying earlier, that you get tempted to ask, tell me what you think is right or wrong, because I trust you. I feel so close to you. So the myth, that's not the myth that I want to talk about, but definitely that was one thing that men or women can make better or worse coaches. I think everybody has an equal chance to be a good coach. But the myth that I'd like to talk about is that coaching is too not so strong, because it is spread over several weeks. I'm not able to talk to the person like once or twice a week. And after a couple of sessions, I have seen people who asked for weekly sessions to come back and say, now I see what you meant. I think we'll give a 2-week gap and then prolong it further to 3 weeks. So people who have a long-term coaching agreement usually do it on a monthly basis. And initially they all start with a skepticism. So I won't talk to you again for a month, but it does really make a difference to give a gap. And there is enough holding within that. That's what I'd like to say in terms of myths around that. Thank you.
And I think that second point that you made, Srinath, the reason we recommend a gap is because the process of coaching is not just what happens in the conversation between the coach and the client, but the insight that you have in your conversations with your coach, based on that insight, when you make changes in your behavior. So let's say Deepika is coaching me and I realize that I have trouble asking for a promotion at work. If I just sit with that insight, then nothing is going to change in my life. But if I realize that that is coming in my way and I go off and I have a conversation with my manager and I bring that conversation back into my coaching with Deepika, that's how change happens. It happens when you reflect with a coach and when you experiment with that reflection and being different. And the other point that you're making, Srinath, about it doesn't matter who the coach is. I think it'd be good to spend like a minute on it. So why do you say it doesn't make a difference who the coach is? Wouldn't it be helpful if the coach knew your context and was older than you or had a similar background as you? I'm opening that up to all of you all. And Rachel, we'll close that and then we'll come to you.
I'm not sure I'll be giving the perfect answer here, so I'll ask for others' help. But yeah, I think coaches, when they get prepared, trained by institutions like Navgati, we are all given the same capabilities, and we all sign up to the same ethical framework. And that ethical framework is good enough to hold people across, lines of professions, gender, needs, and difficulties. So once we get those skills honed, it is really not a challenge as to whom you are seeing on the other side. You are able to hold them because we know what structure to follow and how to manage within that. And there is guidance, and we have a community of coaches that we interact with, such as the Coaches Collective. And there you get some ideas if you are stuck in between. So I've seen that PCC, MCC, higher certified coaches coming and seeking support from peer coaches who've just begun and taken those ideas too. So we are all learning in that journey. So whether it's a very super qualified coach or a coach who has just been around for a year, it still adds great value, just that 1 hour with that person. So that's what I feel my best answer for that.
Absolutely. Deepika, you want to add something to that?
No, not really.
I think the one thing I will add, in addition to what Srinath was saying, is that if a coach has had exactly the same experience as you, it may actually make it more difficult for them to stay out of telling. Yeah? Because it's so tempting when you say, okay, you have this experience, I had that as well, and here's what you should be doing. And that's not what coaching is about. So to everyone, really don't worry about how much experience your coach has and how much, what kind of sectors they worked in, etc. They need to be able to understand your context. Yeah, that's important. If you feel your coach doesn't get you, then that's absolutely something to talk about. But otherwise, how many years of experience, which industry, etc., really doesn't matter, because as Srinath was saying, they've all been trained on the same horizontal skills, yeah, which is what is most crucial to coaching. Rachel.
So I think the myth also, one of the myths might be, in 3 months, how can I reach my goal? In just 3 hours to 4 hours of coaching sessions, isn't it too short a time? Don't I need more time? But you'll be amazed at the tools and tricks of, bags of tricks that the coaches have to explore, your goal better, to help you get there. So I think the myth might be that will I get what I want? But I think Shweta also mentioned it's a process. It might be an eye opener. These few sessions might be an eye opener. It might be a starting point. It might not necessarily get you your final goal, but it definitely lead you on that path. So give it that time, give it that space, be open. And I think, like Srinath mentioned, people might want sessions, a few more sessions, right? In a few weeks' time. But like you said, Sunita, you need to pick up that one action that you want to spend time on, and then work on that to actually make progress. So it depends on you as a coach as well.
Lovely. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, Divya.
Yeah, on the myths front, I would also like to add, so one thing that, like, this was not something that the myth got broken like only during this, but it was like few years back, like when my first career stint. So I used to always think coaching is something that's only meant for the leadership or the upper echelons of, management. Which is not the case. Like in the previous 2 years, I had been like attending more and more like sessions related to this, like what coaching is about and all. So that is what was the one of the main driving points, which led me to, when this program opened up, and I was the first one there. The moment I saw it, I was like, okay, I want to sign up for this, because I felt that it's coaching is something like, it's a work in progress, and it will continue for pretty much your if not like in our entire life, but at least a significant amount of time you could go on with different coaches and domains. So that is a myth, that don't hold yourself back because if I'm not at a certain management level or a leadership level, so I should not apply. You should definitely apply and embark on this journey and keep an open mind. The other thing was, I think one of you also covered, was that the coaching, there's a difference between a coaching session and a mentoring session. So the your coach is not a mentor. So they need not be in the same domain and they need not know the same things what you are working on. They just need to understand the soft skills side of it, and they're more focused towards your ability, how you're thinking and what actions you're taking. So these were the two myths that really got broken for me.
Lovely. Thank you all. Very useful myths for people to become aware of. For all four of you, people who are coming into coaching for the first time might feel a little unsure about what kind of things they can bring into coaching. Yeah. So Deepika and Srinath, what kind of questions do you see women bringing into coaching as part of this lean in thing? And Rachel and Divya, if you could talk at a broad level about the kind of things that you brought into coaching, just to give people a sense of what is coaching suitable.
Yeah, Deepika, you want to go first? Go ahead.
No, you go first, Rina.
Thanks. I'll take that as a minority. Like, I've seen, like Sunita, I have to be so grateful to all of you who are behind Lean and Shweta, yourself, because I've seen such inspiration in these young women leaders or different age groups, what power and passion they have towards their own career growth and courage to bring issues. So while some of them were bringing issues which were purely professional, at any point in time, if there was an impact from a personal angle, whether it's a newly born child or a conflict on a particular matter with their partners or issues with other members in the family or a close friend, they would bring in seamlessly and they're able to form new sets of insights, taking it out. And what I was even really greatly inspired to see was in that gap, how they came back with precise, their education, a lot of them were finished with top management institutes in India, came back with precise observations on the things that they went out as awareness and homework. I was really impressed with that, the kind of problems, the wide variety, but also how they were willing to expand on those as sessions grew, and the depth of engagement became more and more. So they went in deeper and took more courageous steps towards finding more.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you say, Srinath, that it doesn't matter whether it's personal or professional, as long as it is of meaning and there is energy behind wanting to make that change, any issue is okay. Yeah.
But in Lean, I mostly got people who are bringing in stuckness in professional life with some, yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify.
How do I get over this stuckness in my career right now? Deepika?
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify, would you like me to share some of the things that were brought in by people?
Broad contracts, Deepika, like, so what questions perhaps the people brought into coaching, such as how do I say no more at work?
Yeah. So, and sometimes it's not even questions. Sometimes it starts off as this is what I'm feeling at the moment, which is perfectly, it's a great place to start. And it could be about profession. It could be a combination of both. Sometimes I've found that people bring in the same, like they've already become aware that they're having some similar patterns in their personal and professional lives, so they'll bring that in. There was even one case where it was a lady who was trying to make a choice on the family way. So yeah, and I think one should.
Any question that is relevant to the client is
whatever they are grappling with, I suppose, at that time.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Rachel, Divya, you don't have to share specifics of your own context that you're working through, but at a broad level, what are the kind of issues you brought in?
Yeah, I'm happy to share at a broad level. So like even my sessions, just like Deepika said, so my sessions usually started with how I'm feeling, what's the most prominent feeling that's governing right now, and usually building upon those things. And they used to be, those feelings used to be in response to a certain thing maybe which is coming. So in my case, maybe like people have like certain goals. Okay, I have this goal for the next 6 months or something. So in my case, I was already, when I have the first chemistry conversation to the first session, I had already made a job change. So I had told my coach Radhika about it, that, I like on the technical front, or at least on the major job front, I know what I want, what I have to do. So that is not something I'm seeking clarity on, but there will be things which will be a little more ad hoc, and I'll be probably more intentional once, like after say 4 months, 5 months. So, so for example, one of the times I was really struggling with like having a one-on-one. That was like my first one-on-one with my boss. So that really occupied me, and I really discussed with her. Or it was something like, I was actually, when I came to this, it was a huge risk for me. Like I sort of left a more comfy kind of position to come into this team, which is like full of high performers. And I was struggling with a lot of imposter syndrome. So that used to be one of the more governing things. And those conversations really helped me. Like Radhika really pointed out my strengths, like, like what are the strengths that has brought you till here.
Right.
So these were the kind of things that, so I was going by that, and probably, but others can also have their own goals, which they can pan out over the 4 sessions, 5 sessions.
In your case, the goal was how do you successfully navigate this transition? Yeah?
Right.
And feel okay about yourself and use all your strengths in this process. Yeah? Lovely. What Rachel, I think her 20-month-old is running around, so we'll wait for her to come back. What would you say clients need to do in order for the coaching to be effective? And maybe we can start with you, Divya, this time. What did you have to do in order to benefit from the coaching?
Could you give me 1 minute? I'll just...
Yeah, please go ahead, take your time. Deepika and Srinath? Srinath.
Suddenly big light came in my cosmos. So I was having, yeah, so I was going to say, so the clients, to ensure success of the session, I think showing up is the most important thing. And that really has huge value. You might feel on a day that, I don't feel so strong. I might have not done all the reflections that had committed to do. And I don't know what I want to take to today's conversation. So a lot of times, as it was explained, Divya was saying that you might just begin with how you feel. And that might lead you towards something that you are stuck in, or you might just be heard out today in a conversation, in a coaching. That might be the agreement that we'll have as a contract for the session. So showing up, I think, would be the one biggest recommendation that I would have to ensure success of a coaching conversation.
Lovely. Thank you. Deepika?
Yeah, I think to add to what Srinath said, to sort of give yourself a time, to treat it as something that you're doing for yourself, not to treat it with this agenda, because I have experienced sometimes that, there is this agenda that, okay, I've got these coaching sessions, I have to get something out of this. And, so how do I make the most of it? And this sort of hurriedness, that is one that I feel is counterproductive. I feel that if the coachee also, comes into it as doing something for themselves with pleasure, rather than this thing that, oh my God, I have these problems and I have to sort them out for myself and get ahead in life. I feel that would be a nice space to look at coaching as some kind of self-love, something really soothing and nice, like a spa.
I was just thinking about a day at the spa as you were talking.
Yeah. Mental spa kind of thing, or emotional spa, whatever. Yeah, I think that would help.
Show up and come in from a space of relaxation, treat it as self-care and time for yourself. Yeah. Divya, Rachel, anything you'd like to add?
Rachel, would you like to go ahead? I mean, I can answer, but if...
Go ahead, she'll come back when her camera's on. Yeah.
Yeah, along with these two things which have already been added, showing up, yes, was the most important. Something that made it for me specifically. So I was in the initial session, I was struggling with okay, what, since I as I mentioned, I already had a certain goal. Okay, I changed my job and I have to do these things in the first 90 days. So like having a goal in mind was difficult for me. Like, okay, I've signed up, but now what? So really searching within, like, okay, what is it that I would like to discuss that can come that can really impact the growth and help me. uh, so without putting the added pressure, like I also had the expectation, like, okay, this one session or 4 sessions is not going to be like, okay, this has fixed everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that's something like my coach also mentioned, that have certain thing, like what is the thing that you would like to discuss. If you were clear about that, so that will help the session being more successful. So that advice was helpful. And then from second session onwards, and we had kept like a healthy break in between, so I was clear, okay, we can talk after 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So that ways, then I was more deliberate about it. That helped it being successful.
Lovely, Divya. Thank you for sharing that. Because Srinath was saying the metaphor of a navigator. If a coachee or a client doesn't know where they want to go, then the whole conversation could end up making aimless. So come in with some level of clarity on the goals, the questions that you want to answer for yourself. Thank you. Rachel, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so in terms of recommendations, don't limit yourself. I think be open in the conversation, have an open mind. Don't worry about the mix of personal, professional, because they will be intertwined. That's what I understood. Right, I had a goal. I came up with a simple goal, but I realized that the drivers that were holding me back from my goal were mixed with personal and professional. So you really can't define a boundary. Don't do that. Be open. Just let thoughts flow. Let the emotions flow. It's all right at some point of time. If you need a break, it's okay, because these exploratory conversations can get uncomfortable at some time, right? Because you've always probably felt a certain way, and with that exploration comes a new thought, comes a new reference. So my recommendation would be just be open to change, be open to the process, uh, and don't define boundaries for change.
Lovely. That brings me very smoothly into the last question I was going to ask all of you, which I think you just responded to, Rachel, which is, what is one line of advice you would have for people who are thinking about going through this program? So Rachel's advice is be open, trust the process, don't set boundaries. Yeah. What would the rest of you say? And then we'll open it up to questions from the group.
May I, Sunita?
Yes.
So I think I'd like to go back to my metaphor about coaching being like a bit of an internal treasure hunt. And I would say that's a nice approach to go into any learning program that we sign up for, to believe that, I have a lot of potential, and I'm going to learn a new skill, and I'm going to discover new potential within myself and feel really good about it. And some of it may be uncomfortable. All of it will not be as happy and shiny all the time, but that's all part of the growth. So I think that's what I would say.
Lovely. Thank you. Divya?
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful advice, like how Deepika framed it. I would just say, like, embark on the journey, and this like having this opportunity gives you this wonderful chance to explore yourself within, and then you could take this forward and you could decide other things based on that. But definitely, like, embark upon this journey and see it uncover how it goes for you. And yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. Srinath.
Yeah. So I'm a chemical engineer, so I'll bring in a couple of chemical engineering words here. I haven't done anything with chemical engineering from the day I finished it. So yeah, you will, as a client, as a person who's committed to your own life journey, achieve what you want to achieve. With coaching, it would catalyze your process, meaning it would make the goal come smoother, faster, and also lubricate it. If you talk about engine, make it smoother, enjoying the ride, and get ready for the spa.
Thank you. There's also some mechanical engineering mixed in there. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, all four of you. I know Saturdays are like really precious real estate, and it's extremely kind of you all to take the time to come here and answer these questions for the benefit of people who are thinking about going through it. So I'm going
I'm
to
in the middle of a cricket match, so I'll wear my whites back and go again.
Thank you so much, Srinath. Really appreciate it. So the rest of you can turn your cameras back on, and we can answer any questions you may have. So Bhavna had a question right in the beginning, addressed directly to me, which is, how is this different from what you would experience in a therapy or a counseling session? Yeah, and I'll respond to that these three areas, which is therapy, mentoring, and coaching, are overlapping areas, because in all three cases, the person who is being the coach, therapist, mentor is coming in from a desire for you to live up to your fullest potential, a desire to be there for you, is coming in trained in the skills of active listening and inquiry. Yeah. The difference between therapy and coaching is that coaching works from the here and now into the future. Yeah. Now, let's say, for example, Shweta is having difficulty asking for a promotion at work. Yeah, it's very difficult for her to say, hey, I think I'm ready. Yeah? Because somehow when confronted with an authority figure, she feels like the authority figure, her manager, should recognize her capability and give her the new role. Yeah? A coach will work with Shweta to help her understand what her experience with other managers have been in the past and what is causing her to feel this hesitation right now and what she can do about it. Yeah? A therapist would, in addition to doing this, if required, also look at the root of the issue and where it comes from. So what was Shweta's relationship with the authority figures in her childhood that she's transferring on to her manager today? Yeah. So it goes back more into history. That's one of the most fundamental differences between the two. Yeah. Other questions?
We have one from Resham.
Yes, please.
She says she's a stay-at-home mom and she sees herself working in the future. So is this also applicable for coaching for her personal life?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as Srinath was saying, and Deepika mentioned too, you are the same person, right? No matter what context you're operating in. And coaching is about coaching the whole person, not coaching you as a productive employee of an organization. So you can bring in any question that is of relevance for you. Yeah? How can I claim more space at home? How can I get people in my life to take more responsibility? Yeah? How do I learn to push back and set my own boundaries? All of these are valid questions, regardless of whether they're coming up at work or at your personal life.
Thanks, Sunita. I would invite anyone else who would like to ask questions to use the reaction tab to raise your hand.
There was a question that had come in, which was, how would the coaches be? As in, how would the coaches be matched to a potential coachee? How do you decide who do I get as a coach?
So we do a random allocation, to be honest. I'll tell you a little bit about the profile of coaches who will be part of this cohort. They're all people who've been through Navgati's coach training program, which is a 60-hour coach training program. It's really intensive, a lot of practice. They're all people who put in at least 40 hours of coaching on their own time, either have a certification or preparing for certification. There's a wide range of people who've been through our program. So you will have people from HR backgrounds, from business backgrounds, and from who are also facilitators and coaches in their own right. Yeah? So you do share a certain amount of information about yourself. Yeah? And if I know that a coach has a particular sort of, predisposition and enjoys working with people in that space, then I may do some deliberate matching. Otherwise, it's really randomly done, because like we were saying earlier, it is not about how much experience the coach has, which industry they're from. It is how much they can apply the coaching skills in the interest of you reaching your goals. Yeah. Is that enough of an answer, Shweta?
There are a couple of questions on the chat. Mansa, do you want to voice them out?
Yes, I also saw that Lata, you had raised your hand. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, we can see you.
Yeah, I'm already a mentor and kind of a therapist, healer kind of a role. I already do it in my own time. So, what qualifications, extra qualifications, do you look for to become a mentor directly, or should I have been coached by somebody to be eligible to become a coach?
So could you drop me an email, Lata, and we can take this question offline, because it is, so you're coming from the perspective of how do you be a coach?
Yes.
This session is more around what do you look for at the time? So my email ID is sunita@navgati.in. Just drop me an email and we can continue this conversation.
Sure, I'll do that.
So Jita's question, will there be group sessions too? No, Jita, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. This is entirely one-on-one. Yeah? So the 4 hours that you will be doing is with the coach that you will be working with. And there's no prescribed reading to be done as such before sessions. But as you heard from the panel right now, it helps if you're coming into coaching with a sense of what you want from it. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to have a super clear goal, but you're signing up for coaching, not coming in from the point of view of, okay, let me try this right now. But there's a certain sense of energy and commitment towards wanting to make some change in your life. Yeah, it doesn't have to be super specific. You don't have to know how you will get there. That's what coaching is supposed to help you with. Yeah? But come in with some goal that you want to work towards. Yeah? Apart from that, you're in conjunction with the coach, you may come up with work that you need to do between one session and the other. Yeah? Like read up an article or like have a conversation or whatever, but that will be something that you are deciding for yourself basis your goal. There's nothing that's being mandated. Yeah? Diksha's question as a coachee, how will we know if the chemistry is working? It's a really interesting question. Diksha, I would say trust the process. Yeah? Some indicators to look for, and I would be very interested in getting feedback, is if any of our coaches are in the first conversation, you feel talking down to you, yeah? Or coming across as knowing more than you, or not demonstrating active listening, not showing a concern for you. If there are any of those indicators, I would say that's something to bring up to Shweta and me. Yeah? Otherwise, I would say it's sometimes you may have a very strong reaction to a particular person not because of who that person is, but because of something that you're transferring onto that individual from your own experience in the past. I'm sure you all had experiences like that, right? You meet someone and you instinctively really like them, or you meet someone and you instinctively feel untrustworthy of them. It may not have anything to do with that person, but if you feel a strong emotional reaction, then bring it up and we'll talk about how to deal with it. Yeah. Divya, did you want to add something? Yeah.
Yeah, like as a coachee, something that I thought, like going into the chemistry session, because it was also my first chemistry session, I thought that like when because I had to give a lot of context about what my past was, like, I had a transition, I had a restart, and a lot of things had happened. So I just had an internal flag in between, like if the person is not able to understand where I'm coming from, like which could be possible, not from a malicious point of view, just from a point of view that they have not seen such a situation or anything. So in that case, you could think that, okay, probably like they may be a good coach, but they may not be the best at this time. So that was something I looked for.
Yeah, thank you. I also want to add that at Navkati, we have great faith in the people we are putting into this program. Yeah. So the coaching, the chemistry conversation, it's not meant to be an evaluation where you say, is this person a good enough coach or not? Because trust us from that point of view, that everyone who's gone is being present here has the capacity to be a good coach. Yeah. But if, as Divya was saying, maybe the context is so completely different, and we will try and make sure that doesn't happen when we're doing the matching itself. If the person is unable to understand where you're coming from, if there is some strong emotional reaction that's coming from your past, yeah? Or if there are any of those other indicators that I shared, which is the coach not being responsive to you, then please bring those up. Otherwise, I would say trust the process, and sometimes you'd be surprised with how things unfold. Yeah. Maureen's question is open to anybody from anywhere. From anywhere, yes. Shweta, is there anybody eligibility?
Right now, we have opened it up to our community and all the women that we know in our networks. Location is not really a constraint as of now.
Yeah.
I think some people had asked us if they were in Delhi or not in Bangalore and if they could not join us. I think that because most of these sessions would happen online, you don't necessarily need, and then you just need an internet connection to connect with your coach and take this process forward.
You will need to turn your videos on. So I'm just saying. Shreya and Neeta have similar questions, which is, can you extend this process if you need to? So the nature of the agreement that we have, that Navkati and Linen have, is that the coaches will do 4 hours of pro bono work. Yeah? After that, if you want to continue, then you can renegotiate with your coach and find out how much he or she would like to charge you for it. Or you can sign up for the next edition of the sprint with a luck of the draw would be a different coach the next time around. Yeah.
I did end up extending my association. So yeah, I mean, go for it.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Other questions, either in terms of the logistics or in terms of the process itself, that any of us could answer for you?
There were some questions, Sunita, from our previous cohort. So can we also take these sessions on the weekend?
So that's entirely up to you and your coach. As Shweta was saying, you work it out in advance. I know that one area of frustration we've had in the past is that probably about 30 to 40% of people who sign up for the cohort end up not showing up. Yeah? And sometimes the coach doesn't even get to hear back. And Shweta has been doing some conversations with women, and she realized that there were legitimate reasons why they had to drop out. But therefore, the ask that you communicate. Yeah? I would say sign up if you know that the next 3 months is relatively okay for you and you can invest this time in yourself. Yeah? As Deepika was saying, if you're in the middle of a fire, then you probably wouldn't schedule a spa appointment. So it's not like you need a lot of time for coaching. Yeah? But if you anticipate that you're going to be traveling for 6 out of the next 12 weeks, then don't sign up for this one, sign up for the next one. Yeah? Because we have a limited number of slots available and we do want to make sure that people are using this time well. Yeah? Also, the other thing that we've had issues with in the past is people rescheduling at the very last minute. So both sides, people have got demands on their time and have commitments. So as Shweta was saying right in the beginning, please honor that commitment. If you feel that your coach is rescheduling at the last minute, it happens more than once, then please bring that up to our notice. But our ask of both sides is that if you must reschedule, then please give each other at least 24 to 48 hours notice. Yeah? But weekdays, weekends, I know that many of our coaches are okay with working on weekends. You can work it out in a manner that works for the two of you.
Thanks, Sunita. Any other questions from the audience? If you'd like to turn on your videos and ask a question. One more thing is, Sunita, you did mention it in the panelist discussion as well. So this is open for women through any stage in their career, right? Whether you're a new joiner or somewhere ahead in your leadership journey, it's open for everyone.
Absolutely. Because just as we're saying, it doesn't matter what the experience of a coach is in order to be a good coach, there is no experience requirement for the client. Yeah. And I think Divya or Rachel brought that out, right? That coaching is not just for senior leadership. It is for anyone who wants to gain more clarity, more insight into themselves and bring about more changes in their lives. Deepika, you wanted to add?
Yes. So one myth that just came to my mind as you were talking about that is that I heard someone say that, coaching is maybe for more people who are already more self-aware, and for people who are not, it may not work. So that I think is also a myth, because self-awareness could be a goal that you bring to coaching.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
I think we don't have any more questions. So just to reiterate the next steps, at the end of the session, what we are going to do is everyone who's attended today, you will get a copy of the coaching contract. It basically is a summary of everything that we just spoke about, of what we want from you and what the coach will bring to the table for you. You can read that entire document. It's a small 2-pager document that we have. And after reading it, put your name at the bottom, put a date at the bottom, sort of to indicate your commitment to continue with coaching. That document has to be sent back to us. And once you send that document back to us is when we'll start the process of assigning a coach to you, right? We would ideally want to close this out, as in you signing this coaching contract by 29th of this month, so that you can start off the coaching process in the first week of July. That's the timeline we are working with. You'll get that email at the end of today's session. So please make sure you check your emails as well and read through the document. It is going to be super brief. So please do take that time.
And I'm just echoing Manasi's ask that could everyone turn on their cameras so she can take a picture. It doesn't matter how you look. You'll all be tiny, tiny, tiny little people on the screen. If you haven't brushed your hair, haven't put on lipstick, it's perfectly fine. Damn, Sheena dropped off now. You'd have been like one man in the middle of all these women. It would have been so cool. So nice to see everyone's faces. Yeah. I think that's as much as you're going to get, Nancy.
Yeah, let me just do the hide 1 minute. All right.
All righty.
Cheers, everyone.
Everyone say coaching.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And thank you all. Yeah, I really want to say Saturday evening is not easy. So thank you for making this commitment to yourself and showing up and being here.